Halo, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good morning, everyone. While we waiting for the speaker join our meeting, let us open this event first, ya. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning, everyone. My name is Abdul. I'm a staff at IMAPS FEB UMY. It's a precious chance for me to be your master of ceremony on this very special occasion of the guest lecture of Human Resource Management with the topic of exhibiting ethical and transformational leadership in business, challenge, and opportunities. First of all, let us reciting our gratefulness to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who have given us His grace in the form of guidance, happiness, healthy, and mercy, so we can attend and participate in this special event without any obstacles. Salawat and salam upon our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who had brought us from the path of darkness to the path of light. I also would like to welcome Professor Dr. Abdul Halim bin Abdul Majid from University Utara Malaysia as our speaker today, and Dr. Udin MM as our moderator, and all of the audience who participate in this event. On this special event, we have several agenda as follows. The first will be the opening. The second will be the material about the name of the topic. Material about the exhibiting ethical transformational leadership in business, challenge, and opportunities that will be delivered by Professor Dr. Abdul Halim bin Abdul Majid from University Utara Malaysia, and discussion that will be guided by Mr. Udin as our moderator, and the last one will be closing. Well, first, let's begin this event by reciting Al-Basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay. It seems like Dr. Abdul Halim has been joined with our meeting. Welcome, Dr. Halim. How are you, sir?
Alhamdulillah, fine. Thank you very much. Sorry, I have some internet problem just now.
Okay, it's
so
okay.
Now it's okay. Alhamdulillah.
Okay. So yeah, maybe I can tell you again about our agenda. Okay, the first will be the opening, and the second will be the material about the exhibiting ethical and transformational leadership in business, challenge, and opportunities that will be delivered by Dr. Abdul Halim bin Abdul Majid, our speaker. And the next one will be the discussion that will be guided by Mr. Udin MM, and the next one will be the closing. Okay, so let's begin this event by reciting Basmalah. Okay, so we can move on to the next agenda is the main topic that will be delivered by Professor Dr. Abdul Halim bin Abdul Majid from the University Utara Malaysia. Prof. Halim, time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah. First and foremost, thank you very much, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta, Faculty of Economics and Business, Dean Prof. Rizal Yaya, Head of Department Prof. Sri Handari, Director as well as Executive Secretary of International Program of Management and Business, Mr. Radyan Dananjoyo, and all respected students of Strategic Management course for academic year of 2021 and 2022. So I think I should share my slides. All right, let me share my slides. Okay. Can you see my slides now?
Yes, Prof. It is very clear.
It's very clear. All right.
Yes, it clear, sir.
All right. Okay, once again, I'm very pleased to be invited to fill in one of the vacuum that you have provided. So thank you very much for inviting me for today's lecture. And just for our record, today is 17 November 2021 on Wednesday. And the topic of my sharing today will be exhibiting ethical and transformational leadership in business, challenges and opportunities. So they all respected participants. So the focus and coverage of my sharing today will be based on these three major sections. So first, I would like to elaborate and define some key terms from the topic, such as what is meant by exhibiting, ethical leadership, transformational leadership, as well as challenges and opportunities within the business context. That will be the first section of my sharing today. The second part, I'll be analyzing and discussing some relevant issues, such as the importance of having ethical and transformational leadership, and the issue of how to nurture, how to cultivate the ethical as well as transformational leadership. And then we'll be analyzing and discussing some issues related to exhibiting and practicing the elements of ethical as well as transformational leadership. And toward the end of our analysis today, I'll be sharing with all of you some ideas or suggestions in managing challenges as well as in grabbing or capitalizing or benefiting from the opportunities. And the third part, toward the end of my sharing, I hope I will be able to share with you some suggestions so that we can some lesson learned, some takeaway, and we do the so-called self-reflection. And if you can see from the slide, self-reflection is only useful when followed by thoughtful action. So before we take any action, by understanding the topic, by doing some kind of analysis and discussion related to the topics of our discussion today, hopefully some takeaways, some ideas to improve our respective self will be of value for ourselves, for our organization, and for our nation. All right. So the key terms, okay, the key terms, let us start by highlighting the key terms related to the so-called exhibiting. So from the word exhibiting, we can see that there are synonyms or similar words, right? Similar words to exhibiting includes displaying, showing, presenting, revealing, illustrating, displaying, and there are so many other words. But the bottom line from the word exhibiting is to what extent we can cultivate and nurture ourselves with the ethical leadership as well as transformational leadership in business so that we can better off in managing the opportunities and challenges. So that is the first word. So hopefully all respected students, by now you have a better understanding in regard of exhibiting. What we want to exhibit in this topic. So we want to exhibit the ethical as well as transformational leadership in the context of business operation, as well as in identifying some of the issues related to managing challenges as well as opportunities. So that is the first. And the second important word or the second important term is ethical leadership. So what do you understand by ethical leadership? So in this context of discussion, I would like to highlight 5 dimensions under the so-called ethical leadership. The first one is respect others. So when we talk about ethical, especially in the context of ethical leadership, to what extent we can have within ourselves in the context of respecting others. So if we can have such element or dimension, then at least 1 out of 5 dimensions under the umbrella of ethical leadership is already within ourselves, which is good, but it's not enough. The second one is serve others. We are helping others. We are offering some helps to the others so that they can overcome whatever problems that they are facing. And in that context, we can say we have another element under the umbrella of ethical leadership, which is we are providing and service others, those especially those who are in need, those who are in problems. The third is shows justice. So this is very related to the moral aspect, to the so-called moral, legal justice. Okay. So under the umbrella of ethical leadership, we need to develop within ourselves the so-called ensuring whatever decision and action are within the legal framework as well as within the moral framework within a particular culture, within a particular set of values, or within a particular geographical context that includes within a particular country or region. That is the 3 already. And another important element under ethical leadership is labeled as manifest honesty. So this is another critical element under ethical leadership. To what extent, when we talk about ethical leadership, we talk about exhibiting ethical leadership, we can prove to the others that we are honest, we can be trusted, we are serving others, we are respecting others, we are just, all right? And all those are actually being handled and being managed in an honest way, in an integrity context. So that is the 4th element under ethical leadership. And finally, we build community. So when we talk about ethical leadership, we also have to serve others, as what we have mentioned in the 2nd element just now. In this context, the 5th element under ethical leadership is that we want to build others. Not only building ourselves to be better, we'll be future leaders in our respective context, but we are helping in the building the communities so that the communities can have a harmonious life where they respect each other, where they help and provide help to the others, and they are justice, they are moral, they are honest, they can be trusted, and so that the community will be a better community that disregard the importance of ethical leadership. So in the other side of the coins, when we have the so-called ethical leadership, all the beauties and benefits that we have highlighted can be achieved, can be experienced, and if not, without, it means that without ethical leadership, there might be some moral issues here and there. There might be some problems within a society or community, and we do not want to have that. So that the topics of our sharing today, we want to benefit from those elements under the umbrella of ethical leadership. So then with that terminology. The third is transformational leadership. So within the context of transformational leadership, what we are talking about? We are talking about modeling the way. We are talking about encouraging the heart. We are talking about inspiring a shared vision. we are talking about enabling others to act. And also we are talking about challenging the process. So there are so many types. Of course, there are few types of leadership, but in the context of today's sharing, we are highlighting only two. One that we have discussed just now, that we have briefly defined just now, which was ethical leadership. And now we are talking about transformational leadership. So transformational leadership, among others, should develop ourselves to become models, to become someone who can be followed, someone who is encouraging and hearts to the followers, someone who can inspire others, who can inspire followers and employees in the business context of organization, where they are believing and they are practicing based on their shared vision. And we are also providing the opportunities to enable others to act. We allow others to act. We allow others, we allow our employees, we allow our followers to act within the capacity that they have been empowered. And finally, we are also under the umbrella of transformational leadership, we are talking about challenging the process. So the process of improvisation from time to time, from not efficient to be more efficient, from not effective or less effective to be more effective. So as a transformational leadership, we are also looking at improving the process. So we are challenging the current status quo so that we can be better in executing whatever that we're supposed to execute in a better, in a more efficient, as well as in a more effective manner. All right, so done with that. Now we move on to the fourth important concepts of challenges and opportunities. So when we talk about challenges, there are a lot of challenges, there are a lot of opportunities, and all these are actually some of the internal and external factors. So basically, when we talk about opportunities, we are talking about external factors. When we look outside from our organization, there are a lot of opportunities, and some of those opportunities need to be benefited by all of us. But in reverse, we may also observe some threats. So THREATS, threats. So when we talk about opportunities and threats that we can identify from the external factors, from the external environment, it means that we should be able to manage the opportunities and try to control the threats. And when we talk about challenges, and of course, challenges could be derived from within, which is internal, and at the same time could be derived from external. So the challenges also in the context of exhibiting ethical leadership, transformational leadership in business, there are a lot of challenges. And of course, there are also a lot of opportunities. And hopefully toward the end of today's session, we'll be able to discuss some of the issues related to how to better manage those challenges and how to benefit the opportunities. All right, so is it clear? Is there any questions so far? Let me see from the chat. All right, so okay, no questions so far. Let's move on. Right, if there is anything, please feel free to jot down your concern or your question in our chat panel. All right, so now we already have 142 participants. So thank you very much for participating and listening to my sharing. All right, the third, what we call important elements after we talk about the key concepts, after some brief introduction, now we move on to the analysis and discussion. So this will be a bit longer because I will do some kind of analysis. I will share some kind of perspectives, and then we discuss. Of course, the context of our discussion related to ethical leaderships and transformational leadership is actually within the business context. So let us first see at the importance. The importance of fostering ethical and transformational leadership. So the importance of supporting employees and nurturing compassionate and resilient working environments is an immediate priority. So this is really a big claim. Okay, it is very important to get the supports among the employees and to nurture compassionate and resilient working environments. So this is why one of the reasons why we discuss this topic for strategic management, right? Okay, so it is very important. Now we know it is important. So when we know it is important, so what does it require? This requires careful, this requires concentrated and proactive planning through an ethical leadership lens or through an ethical leadership perspective. Okay, knowing the importance, and then we talk about how, when it is important, so how to go about meeting and achieving the importance. So we know it is important. So we know now that in order to achieve whatever that we have said, this requires careful, concentrated, and proactive planning. And of course, we can execute all this, the careful, concentrated, and proactive planning through the so-called ethical as well as transformational leaderships. So one of the dominant models or frameworks is called integrated ethical leadership framework. So maybe you can search while listening, maybe you can also search for integrated ethical leadership framework, which addresses purpose, practice, and virtues. So when we talk about fostering ethical and transformational leadership, we want, as a strategic management students or as a strategic management lecturers or strategic management professors, we may, among others, share with our audience the framework. So the framework in the context of our discussion today is labeled as integrated ethical leadership framework. And this framework has three major parts. First is purpose, second is practice, and the third is virtues. So meanwhile, it is also essential to incorporate elements of transformational leadership. Why? Because transformational leadership helps their followers to enhance their psychological meaningfulness. Transformational leadership denotes that a leader employs 4 or 5 dimensions, which include intellectual stimulation, individualized consideration, idealized influence, and inspirational motivation to guide followers or employees to achieve a high level of thinking. Okay. Transformational leadership can transmit organizational values to their followers and can transform followers' self-worth to meet companies' values. Interesting, right? So that is one aspect of the analysis. And we know the importance, we know what does it require, we know the importance of integrated framework, and of course, by knowing that, what need to be done next. So, dear respected students, sorry, I'm just assuming that you are in my class, even though we are having the so-called Zoom platform. So, ethical leadership is also seen as a demonstration of normatively appropriate conduct through personal actions and interpersonal relationships, and the promotion of such conduct to followers through a two-way communication, through reinforcement, and through decision-making. Because of its universality, we are talking about the universal, we are talking about the values that are being adapted by most of the people in our global context. And today, of course, we limit to the business context. And ethical leadership denotes that the leader's capability in attracting their followers to meet ethical standards through social learning. So we want to be ethical. We want to become one of the leaders who are ethical. And by having the ethical leadership within ourselves, it means that, among others, we have the capability to attract our employees, to attract our followers, to meet, to decide, and to act according to the ethical standards. And we are attracting our followers and our employees through the so-called of mingling around, mixing around, or in other words, social learning. So that is to say, these behaviors of followers can meet ethical standards because ethical leaders attracts their followers to learn and imitate ethical leaders' favorable behaviors. So what is favorable, shown or exhibited by the ethical leaders should be followed, should be imitated by their followers. And some of the things that they should follow, they should imitate includes integrity and morality. And this will later form the so-called ethical identity. Okay. So employees may feel that their work environments are safe and supported because of ethical leaders or ethical leadership. Ethical leadership also can reduce followers' anxiety through the uncertainty of work environments, because ethical leadership can shape trustworthy, can shape openness, and also honest atmosphere. So these are all the big words, the points when we talk about exhibiting ethical leadership. So it is suggested that leaders or managers should not invest most resources in recruiting new employees who fit job requirements. Maybe in previous session, students in strategic management, you have been shared by your lecturers or by your professors in regard of recruiting new employees who fit job or job fit or organizational fit. But from today's discussion, we are trying to impart another perspective whereby we should not invest most of our resources in recruiting new employees who fit jobs requirements, but we should first invest in educational training of leadership to increase their ethical and transformational leadership competencies. Right. Okay, I hope it is clear to all of you. And furthermore, the managers or leaders must consider different ways of fostering an ethical working environment and implementing strategies that support well-being, morale, and personal as well as professional development. So providing ethics education and training is also recommended as a means of creating a greater awareness of ethical considerations and supports the application of professional values in daily practices. We are not only talking about having a vision, long-term objectives, but as far as ethical leaderships and imparting the honest, the integrity, the trustworthy, and hopefully all this will be part and parcel of ourselves so that we can exhibit on a daily basis, or basically it's going to be part and parcel of our personal as well as professional development. Another idea or another analysis is proposing ethics champion you may want to identify someone in your organization or in your business context that, oh, he is the best. We can follow him or we can follow her because he is seen or she is seen as one of the employees or as one of the managers, one of the leaders who have shown that he or she is a trusted person who has a high integrity, who can be trusted, and who will execute whatever responsibilities and duties assigned to him or her on schedule, whereby this is something that we can propose. And the proposal, let me say it again, let me reiterate, it's like proposing ethics champion. By having the ethics champion, it may guide or oversee decision making, and it may also assist in maintaining ethical vigilance. So you can see down here from my screen, maintaining ethical vigilance. So vigilance is in the context of an organization supposed to be seen as keeping a watchful eye on the activities of the unit's personnel or employees and taking prompt action to promote ethical practices and ensure integrity and honesty in the official transaction or in the business transactions. All right, I hope it's clear to everyone. Now we go to another point. I'm still in the process of sharing my analysis and discussion. Okay, we move on to a new point. So encouraging self-care interventions such as mindfulness and emotional hygiene programs are paramount. However, again, this requires commitment, enthusiasm, and investment on the part of leaders or managers and in getting the buy-in from the followers or from the employees. So facilitating forums that provides a place for staff to openly express their ethical concerns in a non-judgmental environment promotes ethical practices and self-caring behavior and helps build professional resilience. So again, in my context, I'm handling strategic management class here in the UN, and I'm also handling strategic human resource management class here in the UN. And now I have chance to meet strategic management students from UMY, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. So I'm trying to impart, which is we are not only talking about ethical leadership, we are not only talking about the importance of having ethical leadership, but we want to show that we will be able, we are putting a clear and sincere intention by having all those competencies and capabilities. We are actually trying to help in building professional resilience. So what does resilience means? So resilience means what? So resilience refers to the ability to maintain personal and professional well-being in the midst of stressful work environment. So there are some cases, there are times where we are being pressured either by internal factors or external factors, but by having the so-called professional resilience, it means that, inshallah, we have the ability to maintain personal and professional well-being, even though we are in the so-called stressful work environment. And now we are talking about COVID-19, we are talking about the pandemic, and some countries already talk about endemic. So we are talking about being professionally resilient so that we have the ability. So the ability in what? The ability to maintain personal as well as professional well-being, even though we are in the so-called stressful or pressured working environment. And all these could be achieved by having a strong heart. Okay, by having a strong heart, the spiritual quotient. By, of course, all these are under the umbrella of ethical behaviors that we want to develop within ourselves. Higher resilience at work is associated with better work performance. So when you talk about someone who is very professional, someone who has the professional resilience with his or her ability, by having those, it is assumed, it is predicted that he or she will be performing well, will be performing better compared to the others who are not having the so-called such resilience. Okay, are you still with me? Okay, to build professional resilience within or among our employees, leaders or managers, firstly, need to develop their own capacity. So we have to be professionally resilient first. To develop resilience before we can inspire and empower others. So first is like self-development. Cultivate or nurture such professional resilience within ourselves. So by having that, we can have a better chance to successfully inspire and empower others. So opportunities for leaders, for managers to avail of resilient, strengthening, training, and leadership development programs are indispensable. So an important characteristics when building a resilient work environment is the ability of staff or employees to discuss concerns, and leaders are willing to listen, learn, and act. However, again, from our analysis, from my analysis at least, this requires an in-depth understanding of the personal and environmental factors that support and hinder professional resilience. We have to see both sides. What support, what are the factors that support, and what are the factors that hinder. So we should be finding ways how to better manage so that the support or the factors that support will be better, and we can enhance our professional resilience. And in contrast, we try to control whatever factors that hinder such professional resilience. So exploring employees' emotions, managing expectations, and developing self-awareness within the or among the employees are effective ways. So it means that we explore the emotions of our employees, we manage their expectations, and we develop self-awareness among them are some of the so-called effective ways of growing such professional resilience. So simple measures such as setting up regular one-to-one meetings with staff and sit as well as listen to their concerns and talk through solutions, actively hearing their voices and enabling themselves to act or change, help promote resilient developments. So from this analysis up to this point, I hope it is clear to you. We are talking about exhibiting ethical leadership, exhibiting transformational leadership, and among others, we have to have this so-called professional resilience. So personal as well as professional resilience for the so-called better work performance. All right. So managers or leaders have an essential role in developing the so-called ethical behaviors. So students from strategic management, UMY, for the academic year 2021-2022. So we are, as your lecturers, your professors, we also have an essential role in developing some of the so-called ethical behaviors among yourself. And of course, we have to ask ourselves whether we are already having such competencies and capabilities. But by having such competencies and capabilities, we can, in a better state, to impart some of the honest values, some of the integrity values, trustworthy onto yourself as our students and as our future leaders. And developing employees' morale and a collective commitment to qualify and safe care, safe to quality and safe. So we are talking about when we are making decisions in the right way, in an ethical way, in an honest way. We are also hoping for the so-called collective commitment, and our collective commitment is for betterment, for quality, for profitability, and all those quality, profitability, delivery, and whatnot are all being done in an ethical, honest, and trustworthy way. So engaging in cognitive reframing empowers the reshaping of working environments into more functional, supportive workplaces for employees. So we are talking about the business context. I'm still with the same slides, so there are a lot of analysis, so I'm just sharing. So effective ethical leadership can increase job satisfaction and morale, reduce burnout, and encourage positive working environment. Ethical leaders proactively influence ethical norms and behaviors through communicating, inspiring, motivating, and empowering our employees. So now when you are enrolling for strategic management class, you're already matured, and soon you will be serving out there, joining the workforce, and maybe you have few subordinates or tens of subordinates or hundreds of subordinates below you that you have to you supervise them. So hopefully you can I'm just sharing my idea is that you can inspire them, you can motivate them, and also empower them to behave in an ethical way, and also to make whatever decisions within their capacity, as well as act whatever in the right way, in a moral way, or in integrity way, so that we can minimize and control some of the problems that currently being observed in different parts of the organization. So leaders need to be charismatic as well, charismatic and inspirational, and have personal integrity. We have been saying integrity and consideration for the needs of individuals. Involving employees in decision-making and action plans are recommended, as these are critical to building the morale, motivation, and collective approach to addressing challenges. So leading by example, we are talking about leading by example. Leaders supposed to show good example and providing personal as well as professional support for staff are core, important to supporting and motivating others. So consideration should also be given to providing mentorship programs. We are talking about mentorships now that focus on promoting professional relationship building, collective efficacy, and caring behaviors. Leaders or managers need to nurture team working, and this requires taking measures to prevent incivility among our employees. They need to show care for their employees. They referring to the leaders, referring to ourselves. We need to show care for our subordinates and employees. A commitment to advocating for our employees' needs, and encourage the challenge resource allocation with senior management or top management whenever required. All right, so let's move on to some of the implication. So leaders and managers need to critically review their own identities as ethical leaders, and this should be commenced with developing awareness of self in teams of ethical leader characteristics, and an awareness of how their decisions impact others. So some of us in the past, we make decisions, we decide without considering the impact on others. Of course, after listening, after sharing this analysis, after discussing this topic, hopefully from now and onwards, when we decide, we are going to decide among others by considering what might be the impact on others. Okay, So they need to appreciate the importance of embracing and facilitating change, creating the vision for delivery and standards, empowering employees, and building resilience among them. So earlier we talked about personal and professional resilience within ourselves. Now we are talking about the potential impact on the others. And among others, we want to create vision for delivery and standards and empowering our employees. And now we are also talking about building resilience among our employees. So leaders need to proactively examine ways of supporting our employees, developing positive working environments, and encouraging ethical behaviors. This will require charismatic, compassionate, inspirational leaders who can support employees through respect. We talk about respect. We talk about empathy. We talk about role modeling. We talk about genuine conscientiousness while encouraging integration of shared values and ethical behaviors. So opportunities for staff to discuss their feelings, to share their experience and challenges in a safe, non-threatening environment are necessary. So having a conducive environment so that within that conducive environment, they can share their feelings, they can share their experience, they can even challenge some of the decisions that have been made, but in a non-threatening environment. This is also important to be considered. So staff need to feel comfortable when they speak. Of course, some of them may have problems. They have pressured. They are being pressured. And of course, we want to know what are the actual reasons for such pressure. And we want to know the causes. And we want to identify possible solutions. So managers or leaders need support in developing greater awareness and understanding of their role in nurturing individual and collective ethical behavior. So now the implication, we are not only talking about individual ethical behavior, but we want to have more individuals. And then when having the so-called collective ethical behavior, our business operations, our organizations should be better than the others, inshallah. Again, this call for the need of organizational support and education and training for students, strategic management students, for leaders, professionals, as a means of supporting their ethical leadership skills and abilities to act in moderator role, nurturing ethical behavior, and later we might talk about the so-called transformational leadership. So still now almost 11, so let me try to complete my analysis and discussion based on the slides that you can see now. So up to this point, ethical leadership construct is seen as multidimensional. So we talked about it earlier. Traditional as well as transformational leadership characteristics of assertiveness and achievement should be supplemented. So now we are talking about combining not only ethical, but also transformational leadership plus other types of leadership should be supplemented, should be considered, should be integrated with the characteristics that we are talking about, such as values of altruism, value of fairness, value of empathy, value of courage, and one of the jargon words that we have been using so far, that I have been using so far, is resilience, either personal or professional resilience. So managers or leaders who exhibit ethical behavior and resilience in response to this pandemic, we are talking about pandemic now, can powerfully influence the actions of others. Nonetheless, aligning managerial and ethical leadership skills with other leaderships, such as transformational leadership, which is another important segment of our topic today, requires. So aligning the managerial and ethical leadership skills with other leaderships is one of the critical aspects for all of us to consider and move forward. all that we need is a renewed attention. So now we are talking about a renewed attention. So whether our attention is just to know or to know and then to practice. Okay, all that we need is a renewed attention and proactive planning. So in order to face those challenges, it is crucial for us to foster ethical vigilance that I have been highlighting just now, to nurture self-caring behaviors and professional resilience, whilst inspiring, motivating, and empowering our subordinates or our employees in our respective context. The importance of having open dialogue, understanding the vulnerabilities of our employees, while nurturing self-care and professional resilience must not be underestimated. So in other words, we have to give serious attention on all this, where we have to know their problems, we inspire them, we motivate them, we empower them, so that we can have whatever that we want to have, which is a better and sustainable business operation. All right, therefore, organizations need to ensure support. So as an organization or as a business entity, we have to offer support, and both the ethical as well as transformational leadership development needed to be made available to all in the form of education. So while we are studying at UMY, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta, so through the courses such as strategic management course or ethics course in other subjects that you may also have enrolled. So in the form of education, in the forms of training, in the form of peer support, in the form of mentoring, I mentioned the word mentoring earlier, and also in the form of coaching. So the involvement of all in the process of ensuring the exhibiting ethical as well as transformational leadership in business, then we can have a better idea, a better foundation in moving forward for the so-called addressing and managing the challenges as well as opportunities. All right, let me see whatever. Is there anything? All students. All right, so I think this is still for the students. All right. Okay, so let's move on. Now it's almost 15 minutes. I have been talking. Maybe I have another 10 to 15 minutes. Is it right, Mr. Moderator?
Yes, Prof.
All right. So let's move on to the challenges and opportunities. Just to share 5 challenges or possible opportunities. So I put in the form of propositions. Number 1, ethical and transformational leadership approaches are favorable for organizational outcomes, for business operations. Number 2, role of managers or professionals are dependent on the competence, commitment, and contribution of employees to support organizational policies and adding values. So that is another challenge and opportunities. Of course, if we believe in that, we move on and then we take the necessary action through the right strategy. Hopefully, we'll be able to achieve whatever that we want to achieve, which is to sustain. Sorry, not only talking about business survival. Later, I'll be sharing. Not only talking about business survival, not only talking about business growth. We are having the so-called a clear or renewed attention, whereby we want to have a business that is sustainable. So number 3, possible challenge and opportunities, the need to identify and strengthen existing organizational capabilities, plus building emerging capabilities. Just now we talked about, during the analysis and discussion, I talked about professional and personal resilience. Now, on top of that, we have the so-called strengthening the existing organizational capabilities, plus building emerging capabilities such as innovation, creativity, networking, and risk management. Number 5 or number 4 down there in the slides, number 4 down there, proposition number 4, managers or professionals or leaders need to further improve the alignment, the integration and innovation to holistically transform to holistically transform roles and paradigm. So we talk about a paradigm shift, we talk about professional resilience and whatnot. So individually, as leaders, as students today, as future managers, as future professionals, we need to further improve the so-called alignment or integration and innovation in order to holistically transform our roles and have a better or a more what I call a paradigm, a better paradigm, or something that we want to improve so that we can be better than yesterday. And finally, proposition number 5, managers, professional leaders need to be competent in data analytics. So this is something that you want to explore more. That is one of the opportunities on top of talking about the ethical, talking about transformational. We are also needed to seek and explore more in terms of our competency in dealing with data or big data. So overall, the strategy that we are talking about in order to manage the opportunities and challenges is by having the right leaderships. We are talking about ethical leadership, we are talking about transformational leadership, and on top of that, we have to have the right culture, we have to have the right values or the right set of values so that we can move forward and we can ensure our company will not only be able to survive, but we are going to grow and we are going to have the so-called business sustainability. And in order to achieve that, in order to achieve the so-called business sustainability, evolution is key. So we need to reskill our leadership. Okay, we have to have the so-called reskilling leadership. So we have to ask ourselves, we have to ask our leaders, and of course, everyone need to improve, everyone need to evolve so that we can be better than yesterday. All right, below here, I have some selected strategies just to share because you are in strategic management class. So I'm sharing the so-called some selected strategies based on the transformation that we have today, the digital revolution for sustainable development. That is the baseline. We are talking about transformation. We are talking about digital revolution in order to sustain whatever development that we are talking about. So among other strategies, strategy number 1, we have to be the front line to facilitate our employees. We have to assume as future leaders, as future managers, or as future professionals, we have to develop ourselves so that we can be in the front line to facilitate our workforces or to facilitate our employees. That is one. And then the second one, we have to promote and emphasize mental health. Okay, there are a lot of issues out there. We have to promote and emphasize mental health. We have to promote and emphasize emotional well-being, and we also have to promote and emphasize on skill development, including skill leadership skills development. The third, remote and hybrid work strategies. So now we are talking about some distant learning. We are talking about hybrid work strategies. So we have to react quickly, and of course, on top of reacting quickly, of course, we want to try our best to be proactive, but in some cases, we have to be reactive as well when we talk about the dramatic change out there from the external factors that is not controllable. But the suggestion here is that we should strategize in a way that we can, if we cannot be proactive, at least we are going to be reactive in a quicker way, in a speed that is faster than our competitors. And also we have to have the necessary actions and decisions to be made at the right time, at the right place to ensure our business is going to be sustainable. The fourth selected strategy for our discussion today, I am proposing the so-called effective and efficient communication strategies. So in strategic management, we cannot go away from having the effective as well as efficient communication channels. When we say, when we talk, when we deliver any important messages, hopefully it will get across to the targeted audience in the right way so that they will react, they will behave in the way that we want them to behave. And finally, as has been highlighted earlier, strategy number 5 is actually throughout the discussion and recommendation, we have to have the right leaderships, either ethical leadership or transformational leadership, or combination of both, as well as supplemented by other types of leadership, so that we can develop the culture, we can have the right set of values within our business context, so that we can be better than our competitors. So finally, dear respected audience, participants for today's guest lecture, visiting professional lecture. So I would like to suggest the so-called what need to be prepared by ourselves, and indirectly we are covering the last important coverage that I have promised earlier, which is our self-reflection. So there are 4 here. First, physical and mental agility. We have to have the right mental agility. In physically, we are ready to move, we are ready to relocate. So physical and mental agility refers to the awareness of changing world to be more uncertain, should be in our mindset. We know that tomorrow will be tougher than today. So today we may feel comfortable, but tomorrow, of course, it will be more uncertain. So it's already in our mind. So we have the right mindset to enable us to have the ability to adapt quickly and change accordingly to the changing needs. Either those changing needs is derived from internal factors or external factors that include the opportunities and threats, as well as other challenges. So that is one that we have to prepare ourselves, that we have to take this as one of the checklists, so that we can be better than the others. The second point in terms of our self-reflection is to invest in future. So we know that tomorrow will be more uncertain, so we have to be doing the so-called investment. Invest in future, among others, refers to technology keeps on developing every single day, and thus we should continuously improve or equip ourselves in the aspect that we could help our organization to grow and be sustainable. So we invest for the future, understanding knowledge, gathering or acquiring knowledge, new skills, reskilling, including reskilling of leadership, being someone who can be trusted, someone who is reliable, and of course, with the support from the technology, from the ICT, we should be able to help ourselves and also helping our organization not only to sustain, but also to ensure that we can survive and we can grow further for better profit or for more profit. And if you are operating in the so-called non-profit organizations, your organizations will also be among those organizations who are sustainable. The third is redesign strategies. Technology was fundamentally mediates the change. So there is a need to revisit current strategies. So if you already have some strategies, your strategy for yourself. So if you are already in charge for any organization or business operations, so revisit the strategies and reset with comprehensive strategy or holistic strategy to enhance, to sustain, and deliver our value at scale. So the impact is supposed to be bigger, and we want to sustain, and we want to do something better at a bigger scale. Finally, dear respected students and audience, for today's session, for the self-reflection, I am recommending that we should collaborate with others. So the collaboration between UMY and UUM through myself as one of the invited speakers for your strategic management class is one of the initiatives I really appreciate, and hopefully the collaboration will be enhanced through other means, through other programs, through other sessions, whereby by now we know collaborate with others to succeed is very critical for ourselves and also for your university and when we talk about business operation for our business organization. So successful partnerships, collaborations are becoming keys to our long-term sustainability. So these are some of the self-reflection and what need to be prepared within ourselves so that we can strategically design, strategically derive necessary strategies to make sure we can not only survive, we can not only grow, but we can achieve the so-called business sustainability. And of course, in order to achieve the so-called business sustainability, the evolution is the key. So with that, I should say thank you very much. And if there is any question or any sharing or any perspectives or any inputs to the topic that we have shared so far, entitled Exhibiting Ethical and Transformational Leadership in Business, Challenges and Opportunities. So get back to you, Mr. Moderator. So I really welcome for any question and any comments so that we can move forward in ensuring our respective organization or our respective self will be having the so-called personal as well as professional resilience. So with that, thank you, and thank you. If there is anything, I'm pleased to stay tuned and share my feedback to any question that you may have in your mind at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Prof, for your time and your knowledge. Hopefully, it will be helpful for us, especially the student of UMI, especially who takes the human resource concentration. And we move to the next agenda. There is the discussion session that will be guided by our moderator, Dr. Udin. Time is yours. If you guys have any question, you can ask in the chat column or you can raise your hand, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Mas Aldi. Very inspiring speech from Professor Abdul Halim. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Ethical and transformational leadership is a very challenge to apply in our business. As mentioned and explained by Professor Halim, ethical leadership focus on leader behave and promote ethical behavior in organization, but not only for leaders, but for all employees.
Yeah.
And transformational leadership, the leader capability to prioritize, to motivate employees to focus on organizational goals, our personal goals. But sometimes it's happen in the organization or in the company. Some employees more focus on self-interest than organizational goals, Prof. So how to solve this problem?
Say it again.
Okay. As we know, the transformational leadership focus on the leaders motivate employees to focus to more priorities organizational goals than self-interest goal of the employees. But the fact when we see the company or the organization, most of employees focus on their self-interest, then achieve organizational goals. I think this is a very big problem in every company, maybe. The employees not focus on organizational goals, but they focus on their self-interest, self-goals.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want me to share my perspective?
Yes, Prof.
Correct. I think whatever that Prof. Udin has highlighted is very obvious. We can see, we can observe. Some of us already experience such scenario where we have leaders who is moving to one direction and the employees are moving to another direction, and they are moving to different directions because of their own purpose. So if you can still recall from what I have said, the integrated ethical leadership framework. So within that framework, we already highlight the importance of having shared vision or shared purpose. So if we can ensure all managers, all leaders in our organization are sharing the same vision, right? Then that is one advantage already. And what will be better if we can impart through various employee engagement sessions to make sure we can motivate, we can empower, we can influence our employees who are yet to share the same vision, to shift their paradigm so that they will agree with the same shared vision. So if both parties or both sets, the leaders, managers, as well as the employees, share the same vision, I think the issue or the problem of having and focusing on self-interest purpose will be minimized. Of course, we cannot 100% eliminate such self-interest purpose, but at least the initiatives, the strategies that we have considered supposed to make sure not only the leaders, but also the employees are sharing the same vision, and we are moving hand in hand together in achieving the vision, mission, and objective of our respective organization. So I think that is my comment, Prof. Udin.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof.
You're welcome.
There is a question from the students, Arisma Satria, in the chat box.
Yeah.
Assalamualaikum, Prof. I have a question on how do managers strengthen the level of ethical resilience for employees, where today the ethical level of some big company employees are seemingly have low ethical behavior, and how to solve it.
All right. So this is another interesting and critical question. Thank you for the question. We know we have problems because we are human beings. Okay, some of us are already at the top as leaders and managers, and among those who are already at the top, they may have been recruited for decades. Some, of course, decades means like more than 10 years or 20 years, whatever. They are already in the organization for years. Okay, so we know and we observe. If you were to conduct so-called empirical research, or this might be another jargon word for undergraduate students, for S1 student, the empirical research. So we may get the so-called facts or data that indicate some of those leaders, some of those managers, they are not trustworthy. What we call corrupt. I think that is common in our region, the so-called corruption. So I think our countries, Malaysia and also Indonesia, are trying our best to control that, and there are agencies that try to charge those corrupted leaders, corrupted managers, and bring them to court and charge them, and hopefully it'll be of a lesson to the others not to follow the same footsteps. So now, when we are aware of those, okay, either from our observation, from our experience, or from our empirical research, by having that facts, then we should ask ourselves, what should be the strategies in order to control that? So one way of controlling is by education. Maybe we cannot help those who are already up there for decades, but sooner or later they will be quote unquote expired. Sooner or later they will resign, or sooner or later they will be retired. Okay, that is one aspect. But in grooming for the youngsters, in grooming our students, so in grooming our S1 student or S1 student or S2 students, or in some of us, in some contexts, we have S3 students. So we are educating our youngsters to behave in an ethical way. So in the near future, when they become future leaders, when they become future managers, when they become future professionals, we hope and we pray that they will act and make whatever decisions in an ethical manner. So the process of education is very critical. That is one. Another strategy is through training. So for the existing managers, for the existing leaders, for the existing professionals, maybe from time to time, at least 1 or 2 times in a year, they should be sent for training programs. And such training programs, among others, should cover the importance of behaving in an ethical way, the importance of making decisions in a moral way, not only legally right, but also morally sound. Right. So such inspiring messages, such motivation, such empowering our employees or existing managers or existing leaders, hopefully, if they cannot resolve everything, at least they will resolve something. So when they resolve something, hopefully a better statistics, a more encouraging data will be found in the coming years if we were to collect data in terms of our leadership performance when we consider the criteria of to what extent they are making decisions, they are taking actions in an ethical as well as in a moral way. So that is the second one. First is education, second is training. Another third strategy. The third strategy is by having the so-called mentor or coaching. Okay, it's like a daily activities when you assign a group of younger or junior managers or younger or junior leaders in your business context or in your business organization. So have someone who is going to be their mentor or assign someone who is going to be their coach so that the mentor and the coach will monitor the action, the behaviors, and the decisions that are being made by the junior or younger leaders or junior or younger managers within their respective context to make sure their behaviors, their decisions are ethical and they are moral. And of course, when we talk about ethical and moral, it's already covered within the framework of justice, right? So they are fair to the others. They consider the impact of the decisions and actions as well as behaviors on the others. Not only to ensure that they will get what they want, but they are getting and serving the others. They show respect to the others. And hopefully from this strategy, which was, I use the word coaching and mentoring, will be of a strategy in ensuring the exhibiting ethical as well as transformational leadership will be successful within our respective context. So thank you very much for the question, and hopefully it helps you to consider what need to be done and what need to be the way forward.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Prof. Abdul Halim. I will continue the question from Mas Arisma Satria. Mas Arisma Satria perspective is the low ethical behavior is from the employees. But sometimes low ethical behavior is from the leader or the manager.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is how to maintain or how to emphasize for the leader to be more ethics, not only force the employees to be ethic, but they emphasize their self to be role models in ethics.
Yeah, if I can say a few words in responding to such concern and question, actually I have highlighted earlier when we talk about ethics, when we talk about morale, the problem is not only among leaders but also among employees. And I have suggested 3 different strategies: education, training, and also mentor or coaching. So when we talk about leaders, they have to, of course, they have to be trained. Of course, they have to be educated again. They have to learn and they have to unlearn and relearn to behave. Maybe they have practiced some kind of unethical behavior in the past. So knowing that whatever that they have done in the past was not right, was not moral, was not ethical, then hopefully they will be, the term in our Malay word is taubat. They will get back to the basic. Okay, try to do, and of course they will improve, and that is one of the strategies that we can consider. The same goes to the employees.
Okay.
So the same goes to the employees. We can, of course, educate them, we can train them, we can have mentor for them, we can have a coach for them. So hopefully by having such strategies or by executing what we call actions accordingly, they will be more inspired, they will be more motivated to behave in the so-called ethical as well as moral way. So one of the bottom line that I have highlighted in my sharing just now is that we should not invest most of our resources in recruiting new employees in meeting the so-called job fit requirement. Okay, so far in the process of recruiting and selection of new employees, we are putting so much effort. We are, making the necessary advertising. We are arranging different categories or levels of screening, and then we are actually trying to identify the best candidate who meet the job requirement, which is job fit requirement. That was the normal practice. It has been practiced in most organizations up till today. So from the sharing that I have highlighted, we are actually proposing, instead of investing so much in recruiting new employees who are meeting the so-called job fit requirement, we should move to the investment so that we are investing more in educating, in transforming the younger generation, the existing employees, the existing managers and leaders, so that they will be more educated, they will be more inspired, they will be more motivated to understand and to act according to the ethical way or ethical manner. So in the process of educating, training, or mentee and coaching and whatnot, there might be another element that we can consider. And of course, another element that I'm going to share with all of you today is actually relating to the punishment and penalty. If it is done purposely, from the integrated ethical framework that I have mentioned, if it is done purposely in a wrong way, in an unethical way, then there might be some kind of punishment. Maybe start from the so-called oral or verbal, what we call command, okay, and then followed by written reminder, and after the second time or third time, show cause letter, and then we may also proceed to the next step. If the problem of the same unethical decision or unethical behavior is being repeatedly practiced either by leaders or by the employees to a certain extent, that we may take the disciplinary action. And to the worst case, on top of some kind of salary freezing, we may go to the very worst decision in penalizing our unethical leaders or unethical employees by showing a way out, which is like termination. So that is under the discussion of the so-called penalty or punishment. So on top of the positive, we may also have another which is negative. On top of education, on top of training, on top of mentor-mentee or coaching, we may also have another which is penalty and punishment. So that by having these compositions, we hope not only among leaders, but also among employees will behave in the so-called expected standard of ethics or ethical standards that we want all our employees and all our leaders within our respective contexts to behave, to act, and to make necessary decisions according to the shared vision that has been documented in our organizational vision, mission, and objective, which is, among others, to be a company with high reputation in terms of integrity, to be a company with high reputation in terms of trustworthy, and to be a company that is handled by leaders and having employees who are integrity and trustworthy and deliver whatever they're supposed to deliver in an ethical way. So that is my comment, Prof. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Is there any question? Maybe the students can answer directly. Okay, the next question is from the students, Alia Aska. Her question is about transformational leadership. One dimension of transformational leadership is inspirational motivation.
Yeah.
It means that leaders always inspire, motivate the employees with positive vision.
Yeah.
But how about if the leader motivate employees by showing negative impact, such as failure? What's the impact, Prof?
All right, it is clear he or she is not a good leader. Because we want leader to be our model or to be our example. Or the common phrase that you may find in literature, especially for those who are research students, when you read literatures, you may find lead by example. So if you were to transform that lead by example in the context of our discussion today, so we want our leaders to lead us by good example. So if they were to lead us by bad example, they are not competent to be our leaders. So maybe some ways need to be done in order to transform them from showing a bad example to be showing a good example. So in order to transform them, or if in order to transform ourselves, in case we are among those who are bad leaders, who are showing bad example, in case, who knows, maybe we do not know that we are showing a bad example to our employees, but maybe from the communication, from the engagement session, there might be some concern highlighted by our employees, and they may feel free to share that and they are observing us as showing some of the bad examples in certain contexts. So after knowing that we have been showing some bad examples to our employees, it means that there is the right time for us to change and transform ourselves and behave in the right way, so that we will become the leader who is meeting the phrase of lead by good example, not only lead by example of either good or bad, but only showing or exhibiting or practicing the so-called we are leaders who are inspiring our employees, and we are leading our employees and leading our followers by showing good example. And there is no option to show any example, either the example is good or bad, and we are only focusing and trying to having the so-called paradigm shift, whereby we will only focusing and exhibiting in showing good and positive as well as constructive example in ensuring our leadership and also in bringing in or strengthening our followers or employees to be better than yesterday by following good example, full stop.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Is there any question from the students?
So how many students do you have, Prof. Udin?
Okay. In this room, the students attend this room 57.
All right.
56.
Ya, so semuanya S1 ya?
S1 semuanya, Prof.
Ya, oke. Right.
Okay. Back to the transformational leadership, it is very challenging.
Yeah.
Can we compare about what's the most significant impact between those dimensions, such as inspirational motivation, idealist influence, intellectual stimulation, and idealist consideration?
Okay, in terms of the dimensions or characteristics or competencies within the transformational leadership, we cannot put aside any particular dimension. Everything is supporting and supplementing each other. All right. For example, when we talk about lead by example, we are actually referring to modeling the way. Okay, so that is important. If we cannot become model, we cannot become example to our employees, to our followers, it means that we are not practicing or we are not exhibiting the topic. We are not exhibiting, but the topic, the intention is we want to exhibit. So exhibiting transformational leadership requires us to be someone who can lead by example. So that is one example. So another, encouraging the hearts. So this is another challenge. This is also important. So when we talk about human being, when we talk about managing people, so we are dealing with OHP. I'm not sure, Prof. Udin, sempat zaman OHP. Right now we are using a projector, but last time we have OHP, overhead projector. All right. So in Malay, for such OHP, when we talk about transformational leadership, we are actually talking about managing people who have otak, O, okay, all right, and they have hati, hearts, and they have P, perasaan, emosi. So as a transformational leadership, when we talk about the competencies, the elements or dimension of the transformational leadership, we should be able to touch the hearts, the emotions, the feelings of our subordinates and our employees. So when we talk about we want to become someone who is categorized under the so-called transformational leaders, so on top of leading by example, as what we have highlighted just now, we can also go away from being able to encourage and to concern or to indicate that we are also taking serious attention in regard of their feelings, of their minds, and also of their hearts. Okay, so this is the second dimension. So again, if you were to say, okay, modeling is not important, then it spoils everything. I'm not sure, maybe those who are already senior like myself, 50 above in terms of age. Right. Zaman dahulu we talk about setitik nila musnah satu timbul susu ya. Kerana setitik nila rosak setimbul susu. So dalam kes ini, kerana satu missing in terms of transformational leadership characteristics or competencies, we are actually spoiling everything under the transformational leadership competencies and characteristics. So again, the second one is also important, whereby we have the capability to encourage and to touch the hearts of our people, because our people are human beings. And they have otak, they have hati, and they have perasaan. So otak, hati, dan perasaan perlu di-combine. Kita tidak boleh perkotak-katikkan. We cannot separate from whatever that they are thinking, from whatever that they are feeling. Whatever they think affect their thinking and also their emotion. So the third, inspiring shared value, I think this is also very critical under the so-called transformational leadership. To become an effective as well as successful transformational leaders, we need to have the capability to inspire managers, inspire our employees towards a shared vision. So in order to be successful in inspiring others towards a shared vision, we also have to believe in the vision. Okay, we have to believe in the vision. Then by believing in the vision, we'll be able to have a better chance in inspiring others for the same shared vision. So if we ourselves as leader, we just take things for granted, we just like an agent, we come to work, we come to office, we come to our organization just to do our daily routines, and we are not focusing on believing the vision, then we may not be able to inspire others to the same shared vision. So the requirement is that we have to believe in the vision, and then we'll be able to inspire others for the same shared vision. Again, these characteristics cannot be put aside. So if you want to say that you are a transformational leader, and yet you do not believe in the vision, and you are not inspiring your subordinates and your employees to the same shared vision, then you are failed. So it's not about 5 minus 1 is 4, it's 5 minus 1 is 0. All right, so another two, enabling others to act. So when we become the so-called transformational leaders, we should have trust, we should empower our subordinates to take the necessary action or acts or decision within their respective capacity, right? So enable them, let them, empower them to decide and to act within their capacity or within their positions, right? So if we limit them, we do not allow them to act, we do not enable them to act, then they will say, okay, you talk about transformational, and one of the characteristics for transformational leadership is enabling others to act. And again, if you say, okay, I'm a transformational leader, I have only 4 dimensions, and of course, it'll be like capek lah. I think bahasa kita kan capek. So we want to walk with 2 feet, we want to walk in a stable way. We want to exhibit in a stable way. We want to be confident. We want to be effective. We want to be efficient. And of course, all this, including the 5th one, which is challenging the process. So challenging the process means that whatever we do, the how to we process whatever production or services, the process flow, we need to keep on finding a better way in processing so that we'll be more efficient than before, right? So challenging the process is another important element under transformational leadership. So combining all these, and maybe if you were to find from other literatures, they will be adding 1 or 2 more. But in short, within the context of our discussion, combining all these characteristics, all these competencies, then we can claim that we are a transformational leaders. Otherwise, people may say that, okay, he or she is claiming that he is a transformational leader, but he is lacking in one of those 5 or in one of those whatever required competencies. And of course, he is not yet to be considered as the so-called transformational leader. So since we want to have a solid, a well-content transformational leader, it means that we have to try our best to develop ourselves, to cultivate, to nurture ourselves with all these characteristics. So by the time we are in the positions as a leader, we'll be seen as an effective as well as efficient transformational leader. So thank you, Prof. Udin.
Thank you very much, Prof.
All right.
Okay. Is there any question from the students?
Are you in office, Prof. Udin?
Is there any question from the students? Or any comment, Mbak Citra? No. Mas Andriansa or Mbak Lorian?
Yeah.
No.
Feel free to talk to me because I'm not going to punish you. I'm trying to share my perspective, my analysis, and we are discussing and finding ways to move forward.
Okay, the students can use bahasa Indonesia.
Ya, boleh bahasa Melayu, bahasa
Bahasa
Indonesia.
Melayu, bahasa Indonesia, or bahasa Inggris.
Boleh
That's
aja.
around you.
Ya, feel free. Kalau saya perlukan penjelasan, saya akan tanya.
Oke. Mungkin pertanyaannya seperti ini, Prof.
Ya, oke.
Apakah dalam konteks satu organisasi bisnis itu kita harus gunakan satu tipe gaya kepemimpinan atau menggabungkan lebih dari satu tipe itu?
Oke, soalan yang baik. Dalam pembentangan saya tadi, saya juga telah sebut tentang peri pentingnya di ethical leadership untuk disokong dan didukung dengan apa yang diistilahkan sebagai traditional leadership. Sebab traditional leadership dia lebih kepada output. It means that you have to produce. Ada target. Okay. So the assertiveness, itu bahasa yang dalam bahasa yang saya guna tadi. Jadi bila dalam konteks perbincangan kita dalam mana-mana organisasi, kita kena tahu bahawa ada pelbagai leadership style. There are few leadership styles. Okay. Kalau boleh saya sebut, hari ini kita sebut pasal ethical leadership, kita sebut pasal transformational leadership, sedikit saya sebut pasal traditional leadership, ada yang transactional leadership, ada participative leadership. So at least 5 or 6 different leadership styles. Ada 5 ataupun 6 kepelbagaian gaya kepimpinan. Jadi dalam konteks organisasi, bila kita mengurus manusia, kita kena pertimbangkan keupayaan mereka dan culture ataupun budaya kita. Okay, kalau dalam militeri lah, sorry ambil contoh militeri ataupun ketenteraan, sudah tentu partisipatif tidak sesuai. Kan? Kalau nak menyerang musuh, kita bincang dulu, masyarakat dulu, kan? Sudah tentu tidak sesuai. Jadi kesesuaian organisasi, so it depends kepada nature ataupun culture ataupun values dalam organisasi kita masing-masing. Jadi umumnya untuk menjawab persoalan, adakah hanya satu gaya kepimpinan wajar dilaksanakan dan digunakan dalam satu organisasi? Sudah tentu jawapannya tidak. A combination of various leadership styles, gabungan beberapa characteristics, beberapa competencies daripada beberapa gaya kepimpinan. So ini penting. Jadi maksudnya we have to be educated. Kita sebagai leaders, we have to know more than our leaders and we have to know more than our employees or our followers. Jadi satunya bila kita tahu banyak, so senang kita menyesuaikan dengan keadaan. Ada keadaan yang kita boleh invite for so-called penglibatan daripada pekerja ataupun daripada orang bawahan ataupun daripada subordinates. Kan, itu satu pilihan yang kita ada. Dan ada masa yang mungkin kita be decisive, ada autocratic, kan? Maksudnya ada keadaan, ada masa yang kita kena mengarah, kan? So autocratic leadership style. Jadi pendeknya gabungan beberapa gaya kepimpinan perlulah kita sesuaikan dengan keadaan dan masa, dan juga apa yang penting, kita tahu bahawa kita ada berbagai pilihan dan daripada alternatif yang ada, daripada pelbagai pilihan yang kita ada, kita tahu mengguna pakai yang mana untuk masa dan keadaan yang bagaimana. Supaya bila mana kita memilih dan menggunakan gaya kepimpinan yang tertentu, ianya sesuai dengan masa tersebut, sesuai dengan keadaan tersebut, dan membawa the bottom line ataupun hasil akhirnya adalah kejayaan yang dinikmati oleh kita dan juga organisasi kita secara keseluruhannya. Terima kasih. Itu komen saya. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for Prof. Halim for your comments. Intinya sebenarnya penerapan gaya kepemimpinan itu bisa dikatakan tergantung situasi dan tipe organisasi ya.
Iya, betul.
Okay, maybe is there any question from the students? You can ask directly or writing your question in the chat box. Silakan teman-teman.
Ayo bagi teman-teman yang ingin bertanya bisa langsung raise hand atau bisa langsung di unmute.
Ya.
We still have 10 minutes lah. Kita masih punya ya sekitar 10 menit atau 15 menit. Kalau masih ada pertanyaan, if you still have questions, let's raise your hand or write your question or ask directly to the Professor Abdul Halim. Is there any question? Mbak Rida, Mas Andriansyah, or another students?
I have a question, Pak.
Okay.
No, sir.
Oh, siapa dulu nih?
Akib dulu, Akib.
Mas Akib, Mas Akib.
Indonesia speak is okay ya, Pak?
No
Ya,
problem.
boleh.
You can use Melayu, Indonesia, Inggris, Jawa.
Yeah, I know. Jadi kan tadi kan saya sempat dengar masalah kepemimpinan sesuai keadaan ya. Gitu kan.
Iya.
Jadi ketika perusahaan mengalami suatu gejolak intervensi politik lah dalam keadaan istilahnya di wilayah baru gitu. Yang ketika dia ingin mengekspansi ataupun membangun peluang baru untuk perusahaannya untuk melebarkan sayap bisnisnya, ya, tetapi atmosfer politiknya itu dan kebudayaannya itu berbeda gitu. Nah, itu untuk istilahnya perusahaan itu membangun ataupun memperbesar perusahaannya di wilayah baru tersebut. Nah, sikap kepemimpinan yang secara leadership gitu di dalam organisasi ataupun baik di dalam organisasi ataupun sikapnya terhadap eksternal itu seperti apa yang harus diambil gitu? Apakah perlu kita menyesuaikan dengan keadaan atmosfer baru tersebut atau tetap dengan gaya perusahaan kita sendiri gitu? Misal contoh dulu Starbucks tidak berhasil lolos di Arab Saudi dengan logonya yang istilahnya terlalu vulgar gitu menurut bangsa Arab gitu. Nah, tetapi mereka mengubah logo tersebut sesuai dengan keadaan dan kebudayaan di tanah Arab gitu. Nah, apakah hal semacam ini patut kita contoh atau tetap berpegang teguh dengan prinsip perusahaan kita? Terima kasih.
Baik, kalau boleh saya ulas sedikit lah. Dari segi MNC, multinational corporations, ataupun kita perusahaan yang melibatkan beberapa negara ataupun pembukaan daerah baru ataupun kawasan baru untuk bangunan dan seumpamanya, sudah tentu kita kena ada leaders ataupun pemimpin yang boleh inspired di followers. So maksudnya dari segi influence, persuade dalam bahasa Inggerisnya, maknanya kita boleh meyakinkan kita punya orang bawahan, kita boleh meyakinkan followers kita bahawa the vision ataupun the shared vision that we are trying to impart ataupun vision yang kita cuba nak dapat buy-in ataupun dapat persetujuan dan sokongan dan dokongan daripada semua pihak adalah sesuatu yang memberi manfaat kepada masyarakat terbanyak kan, ataupun kelompok terbanyak. Jadi cara kita ataupun dalam konteks gaya kepimpinan, sudah tentu kita telah mengambil kira keadaan ataupun situasi. Kita mengambil kira bahawa kita membuka ruang perniagaan ataupun kita membuka ruang, kita kata, pelebaran daerah dan seumpamanya, ataupun membuka daerah yang baru. So kesemua itu telah pun digarap ataupun sudah masuk dalam perkiraan ataupun dalam pertimbangan kita. So bila sudah masuk dalam pertimbangan kita yang very knowledgeable, yang kita tahu, yang kita ada maklumat, yang kita sudah ada informasi tentang beberapa pilihan gaya kepimpinan, maka sudah tentu kita akan tampil dengan satu yang boleh berjaya mencapai matlamat. So the bottom line is that we want to achieve whatever that we have set as our target. Kita nak capai matlamat dengan sasaran yang telah ditetapkan. So sasarannya adalah untuk membuka satu kita kata perniagaan baharu ataupun satu perlebaran wilayah. Jadi matlamat sudah diletakkan ataupun sudah didokumentkan ataupun sudah ditulis. Tapi apabila diamanahkan kepada kita sebagai leader ataupun sebagai penguasa yang bertanggungjawab, dengan knowledge yang kita ada, dengan ilmu yang kita ada, dengan maklumat yang terkumpul daripada pelbagai sumber, dengan cara kita mengartikulasi, so articulate. Saya ingat dalam bahasa Indonesia juga artikulasi kan? Artikulasi. So articulate. So kita kena be able to articulate the situation, analyze the situation, synthesize the environment, and then we move forward. So sudah tentu ada cabaran. Jadi kita kena bijak. Jadi pendeknya untuk menjawab soalan itu adalah kita kena semak sama ada kita competent in terms of knowledge, sama ada kita ada ataupun tidak knowledge ataupun ilmu. Kalau kita sudah ada knowledge ataupun ilmu yang berkenaan dengan gaya kepimpinan, kita sudah ada maklumat tentang faktor-faktor yang mempengaruhi, sama ada faktor luaran ataupun faktor dalaman. Kita sudah ada maklumat tentang resources ataupun sumber-sumber. Kita sudah ada maklumat tentang kelompok sasaran, manusia-manusia yang akan berhadapan dengan kita, yang kita tahu bahawa semuanya tidak akan bersetuju, tetapi bagaimana kita nak menangani orang yang mendukung dan menyokong, dan dalam masa yang sama bagaimana kita nak menangani dan mengendali mereka yang mungkin akan tidak bersetuju dan akan bertindak secara tidak wajar terhadap sasaran yang telah pun ditetapkan. Jadi dengan knowledge yang kita ada, itu satu. Kemudian dengan skill kita, semacam mana kita nak meyakinkan orang lain. Jadi untuk memudahkan kita meyakinkan orang lain, kita kena yakin dahulu. Itu prasyaratnya. Untuk kita meyakinkan bahawa ini adalah sesuatu yang baik, maka kita mestilah meyakini bahawa itu adalah baik terlebih dahulu sebelum kita berusaha untuk meyakinkan orang lain bahawa ini adalah baik. So you have to feel it, you have to experience it. When you feel it is good and it's beneficial, then you are in the better state to influence others to believe that it is good and beneficial for them as well. Right. So dari segi pelaksanaannya sudah tentu kita ada jentera-jentera kita ada pembantu-pembantu kita. So semua jentera dan pembantu kita sepatutnya mempunyai kefahaman dan percaya dengan visi yang sama, dengan vision yang sama ataupun shared vision. So semuanya bergerak sederap, itu saya ingat semua dipahami istilah ni. Everyone is moving together, helping each other. Mana-mana yang kita kurang akan ditampung dan didukung dan disokong oleh rakan-rakan kita yang lain. So matlamat akhirnya adalah kita nak mencapai satu kejayaan yang memberi kebaikan kepada masyarakat terbanyak, dan sudah tentulah kita perlukan kepada ilmu yang mencukupi, kemahiran ataupun skill yang mencukupi, dan cara kita mengurus manusia sama ada yang menyokong ataupun sebaliknya, supaya kesemua pihak berasa selesa dengan apa yang kita telah tetapkan sebagai matlamat, dan matlamat ini sebenarnya adalah satu matlamat yang membawa kebaikan kepada masyarakat ataupun kepada negara secara umumnya. So terima kasih.
It's okay, I know. This point mean if you wanna expand your business to new area, you must know the culture and political in the
Right.
new area. Like that,
Right.
Mr.
Yeah, you are right.
Okay.
Kita kena buat environmental scanning lah. We have to analyze the environment. So the environment need to be scanned. We call it environmental scanning. Of course, there are two types: internal factor analysis and also external factor analysis. Dan masa kita buat analisis itu sudah tentu kita boleh lihat dan analisa dari segi PES, PEST, Political, Economic, Social and Technology.
Yes.
And di situ simple analysis bolehlah guna teknologi ataupun boleh guna STEEP pun boleh juga. So, social cultural, technology, economics, ecology, and politics, or of course, itu memang tidak boleh dikesampingkan. Ada beberapa pendekatan, ada beberapa model analisis. So, antaranya adalah PEST, Politics, Economic, Social and Technology, dan boleh juga guna analisis STEEP, iaitu Social Cultural, T for Technology, the first E, Economy, second E adalah Ecology yang melibatkan kemanusiaan setempat, dan juga yang akhirnya adalah Politics, P. So kita tidak boleh menjarakkan diri kita daripada analisis demikian dalam strategic management. Dan saya percaya dalam strategic management untuk academic year 2021 dan 2022 sudah menyebut beberapa pilihan strategic model untuk diguna pakai dalam analisis kita dalam membuat keputusan dan juga dalam menjana strategi masa hadapan untuk bisnes perniagaan kita ataupun untuk organisasi kita masing-masing. So saya percaya itu sudah pun dibincangkan dan saya hanya menokok dan menambah daripada apa yang sudah dibincangkan di dalam kelas saudara-saudari mahasiswa-mahasiswi Strategic Management Course untuk academic year 2021-2022 UMY, Universitas Muhammadiyah Jakarta. Terima kasih.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Mr. I know you're dead, young man.
Alright, you're welcome.
Mas Akib, thank you for your questions. If there's any question from Mbak Intan. Assalamualaikum, Prof. I want to ask about what kind of leadership style that can be applied during a pandemic COVID.
Yeah.
Because as we know, during the pandemic COVID, many companies facing uncertainty situation.
Yeah, betul. Alright, rujukan saya, ada satu rujukan yang saya baca diterbitkan pada akhir tahun 2020. So, satu artikel yang saya baca, rujukan 2020 ni, akhir tahun 2020 bermakna kita sudah berada dalam COVID, sebab COVID bermula sekitar Mac ataupun end of Februari dalam region kita. Okay, dalam region kita, Malaysia, Indonesia, mungkin di akhir bulan Februari 2020 dan juga di awal Mac 2020, kita sudah mula terasa dengan impak COVID-19. Jadi artikel yang saya baca adalah di akhir tahun 2020 yang menunjukkan bahawa gaya kepimpinan dalam mendepani ataupun dalam menangani, dalam mengurus COVID ini dilihat daripada pelbagai kacamata ataupun pelbagai sudut pandang. Ada yang melihat bahawa kita perlu autokratik, maksudnya leaders kena terus buat decision dan employees ataupun subordinates hanya follow. Tapi ada kita kata sanggahan dalam bahasa sangat Indonesia pun ada, iaitu sanggahan, maksudnya tidak bersetuju. Ada argument kata okey, kalau all leaders ataupun all managers dalam suasana pandemik COVID-19 dalam contoh perbincangan kita menggunakan pendekatan autokratik, hanya membuat keputusan tanpa mendapat input daripada employees, itu bukan satu yang baik, bukan satu yang bijak. Jadi ada lontaran lain pula yang menyatakan bahawa managers ataupun leaders kena menggunakan pendekatan partisipatif. Maksudnya kena tanya employees apa masalah mereka. Dan dengan maklumat yang dikumpul daripada employees melalui apa yang dikatakan sebagai EE, iaitu Employee Engagement, maka barulah dibuat keputusan. Walau bagaimanapun suasana dalam pandemik ini adalah suasana yang begitu tidak menentu, very unstable situation. So dalam unstable situation ada masa leaders boleh tanya, boleh dapatkan input daripada employees, dan ada masa yang managers ataupun leaders terpaksa buat keputusan tanpa terlebih dahulu mendapat input daripada employees ataupun daripada subordinates. Jadi keadaan-keadaan ini menyukarkan konklusinya. So konklusinya bagaimana? Adakah konklusinya kita autokratik ataupun konklusinya kita mesti partisipatif? Tetapi bila saya buat analisis sendiri, so saya berkongsi analisis saya. Analisis saya again dia bergantung, it depends on situasi. Dia bergantung kepada situasi. dan bergantung kepada culture organisasi, budaya organisasi. Kalau budaya organisasi kita menerima pendekatan pembuatan keputusan secara partisipatif, jadi maksudnya kita tidak boleh meninggalkan pendekatan partisipatif. Kalau dalam budaya kita mesti boleh ataupun leaders sudah ada kuasa penuh, sudah ada kuasa kita kata authority. Jadi mungkin pendekatannya adalah autokratik. Jadi bila saya menganalisis suasana, jawapan saya adalah it depends, ia bergantung kepada situasi dan juga suasana serta budaya organisasi. Jadi seterusnya so what? Jadi persoalannya jadi bagaimana kan? Jadi dalam suasana pandemik kita melihat bahawa apa juga keputusan yang dibuat mestilah keputusan yang mendapat persetujuan kelompok kepimpinan ataupun top management ataupun leaders dan juga mudah mendapat buy-in, penerimaan daripada employees. Jadi kalau kita berjaya membuat keputusan dan mengambil tindakan yang dipersetujui, yang disepakati oleh kelompok kepimpinan dan dalam masa yang sama berjaya mendapat buy-in daripada employees ataupun persetujuan daripada employees ataupun subordinates, maka apapun gaya kepimpinannya itu bukanlah persoalan. Persoalannya keputusan dan tindakan itu mendapat persetujuan dan disokong mendapat buy-in daripada employees, maka sama-sama bergerak ke arah melaksanakan keputusan yang telah diputuskan. Dan satu lagi pendekatan yang boleh kita lihat adalah dalam konteks kita, keputusan itu mestilah keputusan yang etika, beretik, ethical leadership. Jadi dalam keadaan susah ataupun senang, kita mesti beretika. Okay, so ethical leadership yang kita bincang hari ini adalah sesuai dalam suasana senang ataupun suasana susah. Dalam senang kita beretika, dalam susah kita juga beretika. Kerana personal and professional resilient itu. Dalam senang kita ada banyak masa, kita ada banyak modal, kita ada banyak dana, kita ada banyak sumber. Jadi kita boleh buat keputusan, keputusan kita masih lagi keputusan yang memenuhi syarat perundangan dan juga memenuhi syarat ataupun standard ethics ataupun ethical standards. Dalam keadaan susah, bila kekangan sumber itu juga terbatas, masa juga terbatas dengan pandemiknya dan seumpamanya, masih keputusan yang beretik, yang beretika dalam kerangka pengurusan dan juga dalam kerangka perundangan yang dibenarkan. Jadi umumnya ethics come first. Right? Ethics or ethical leadership should always be the priority in dalam keadaan senang ataupun dalam keadaan susah, dalam keadaan pandemik ataupun dalam keadaan endemik. Ini kita akan bicarakan dalam kesempatan yang akan datang, insya-Allah.
Insya-Allah.
Terima kasih Prof. Udin.
Okay,
terima kasih kepada soalan tadi.
Masih ada satu pertanyaan, mungkin ini this is the last question, Prof.
Boleh insya-Allah.
Terakhir dari Qaumi Firdausa. In leadership, bagaimana caranya membangun kepercayaan di antara sesama, kepercayaan leader terhadap follower, kepercayaan follower terhadap leader, dan kepercayaan keduanya terhadap vision yang dituju?
Ya. Untuk menyuburkan, saya guna istilah menyuburkan, untuk menyuburkan elemen kebolehpercayaan ataupun reliability and trust on each other. I trust you, you trust me, and we trust the same vision. Okay, so in order to have that, untuk berjaya mendapat apa yang kita matlamatkan, ya, mestilah ada effective communication. And biasanya kita tidak bersetuju dengan sesuatu kerana kita tidak dapat maklumat yang perlu. Biasanya kita tidak akan bersetuju dengan sesuatu bila mana kita tidak mempunyai maklumat yang perlu. Jadi when we have the information, when we have the complete information ataupun sufficient information, complete ni satu neraca, satu ukuran yang lain. When we have sufficient information and those information are valid and reliable, then normally our decision either to agree or disagree will be valid. Maknanya bila kita ada maklumat yang mencukupi, keputusan kita, pendirian kita adalah keputusan pendirian yang valid. Okay. Tetapi kalau kita tidak mempunyai maklumat yang mencukupi, not sufficient, keputusan kita untuk bersetuju ataupun untuk tidak bersetuju, untuk percaya ataupun untuk tidak percaya, sama ada kita sebagai leader kepada employee ataupun employee kepada kita, ataupun kita dan employee terhadap vision adalah kerana ketidakcukupan maklumat Dan dengan ketidakcukupan maklumat, keputusan kita untuk bersetuju ataupun tidak adalah keputusan yang tidak sah ataupun keputusan yang tidak valid. And that should be avoided. So balik kepada persoalannya kita nak percaya employees kita nak ditanamkan dengan kepercayaan dan keyakinan terhadap gaya kepimpinan kita, maka effective communication and sharing of information. Effective communication and sharing of information. Okay, so effective communication mungkin secara berkala, ada perbincangan terbuka, ada penjelasan kepada persoalan. Jadi effective communication need to be somewhere in the communication channel. Itu satu. Yang kedua, dalam communication ataupun komunikasi antara kedua-dua pihak, maka apa yang dikomunikasikan adalah komunikasi tentang maklumat yang perlu. Maklumat yang perlu, antara maklumat yang perlu dalam konteks persoalan tadi adalah maklumat tentang shared vision. So kalau kita nak percaya, nak believe in the shared vision, we have to know what is the shared vision. Apa benefits shared vision kepada kita dan apa benefits shared vision kepada organisasi. Jadi kalau benefits of the shared vision is not only benefited to us, and of course it's supposed to be beneficial to the organisation, so mungkin kita akan sokong kerana kita akan bersetuju dengan apa yang memberi manfaat dan benefit kepada kita dan juga kepada organisasi. Kerana bila kita tahu manfaat vision tersebut, apa peranan kita dengan maklumat yang kita perolehi melalui komunikasi yang berkesan, dengan maklumat yang mencukupi, biasanya saya akan trust you akan trust saya, dan sama-sama kita kedua-dua pihak akan meyakini dan percaya kepada the same shared organizational vision. So, itu saja pandangan saya. Terima kasih untuk soalan yang baik yang telah dilontarkan sebentar tadi.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Saya kira dengan jawaban-jawaban dan pertanyaan dari teman-teman sudah cukup untuk melengkapilah sesi pertemuan kita hari ini. Thank you very much for your speech, for your answering. It's very inspiring, Prof. Abdul Halim. Terima kasih banyak.
Ya, terima kasih kembali.
Menginspirasi mahasiswa kami. Mudah-mudahan mahasiswa kami juga bisa tumbuh menjadi leader-leader yang etik dan juga yang transformasional ke depannya.
Ya, insya Allah.
Kemudian terakhir mungkin saya kembalikan kepada Mas Aldi sebagai MC pada kesempatan ini. Oke, Mas Aldi, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Abdul Halim, and thank you, Dr. Rudin, for your time. Finally, we have come to the end of this event. To close this event, let us reciting Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Rabbil Alamin. Well, everyone, thank you very much for your coming and your nice attention and your participation. See you in the next guest lecture. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih.
Mungkin teman-teman kita foto dulu, mungkin bisa on cam dulu. Teman-teman kita foto dulu mungkin. Yuk,
kita. Everyone, let's open your camera. Silakan dibuka kameranya.
Yuk, buka kameranya.
Aldi 1, 2, 3 ya.
Oke. Ini bakal ada beberapa tag nih. Ada 5 tag sih kayaknya. Sebentar. Oke. 1 ya. 1, 2, 3. 1 lagi. Ya, 1 lagi ya. 1, 2, 3. Oke. Ya, sudah.
Oke, terima kasih.
Terima kasih banyak, Prof.
Nanti share fotonya dengan saya ya melalui WhatsApp. Untuk kenangan.
Siap, Prof. Siap.
Saya sudah sampai ke Yogyakarta tahun 2016 satu sekali. Ada satu kawasan shopping area itu dipanggil apa? Yang popular itu?
Tanah Abang.
Malioboro ya?
Ya, sudah sampai di area shopping itu. Dan ada juga museum yang 3D apa? 3D ataupun 3 dimensi mana itu di area Yogyakarta.
Yang mana teman-teman yang 3 dimensi itu?
3D ya, 3D.
Enggak tahu saya, Prof. Enggak Saya enggak libur-liburan semacam itu.
Oh ya.
Tapi
Sudah lama saya tidak ke Indonesia. Nanti mungkin ada kesempatan selepas dibuka kita punya bandara dan seumpamanya. Mungkin saya akan ke sana lagi, insyaAllah.
Tapi saya nak ke Malaysia lah, Prof. Main ke kampus.
Boleh datang. Silakan.
Silakan apply beasiswa untuk S2 atau S3.
Ya, betul. S2 ataupun S3. Ramai daripada Indonesia yang sudah tamat S3 daripada Universiti Utara Malaysia.
Ya.
Ramai, sudah ramai.
Utara Malaysia.
Ya. Baik.
Di sana lah saya, Prof.
Silakan. Selamat maju jaya. Teruskan tekad dan usaha untuk terus maju ke hadapan. InsyaAllah. Okey, terima kasih ya. Jumpa lagi insyaAllah. Kalau ada salah silap mohon dimaafkan. Jumpa lagi di lain-lain kesempatan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Prof.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay.